So we're going to be looking today at the call of Abraham, and I want to talk about value, the things that we really value as Christians. I don't know about you, but I love a bargain. Anybody else love a bargain? You know, you look at these cheap websites of all this stuff and you think, I can't believe it's so cheap. It's impossible. And, you know, you kind of resist buying stuff, don't you? But every now and again, like, you fall for something. Like, I was looking on this cheap site the other day and I saw this monocular. And it was like one of these super powerful ones that, you know, you can see the wind on Mars with. And I thought, that is amazing. I've always wanted one of those. And, you know, they're normally really expensive, but this one was £6. I'm like, £6? What a bargain. Anyway, I ordered it, and you know, like when you're really excited for something to be delivered, you know, track your package every couple of hours. I was tracking my package. I think it was coming over from China. I'm like, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. And anyway, eventually, about 2 weeks later, it turned up in this little jiffy bag. I couldn't wait to get it out, and I got it, and I was sat in the garden, and I put it up to my eye, and I thought, I can't see anything out of this. And I twisted it and changed it, and I thought, I can't see anything. It was kind of plasticky, and I held it up, and the lens dropped out the bottom. I thought, oh, that's a bit of a telltale sign. And I picked the lens up, and I realised they put the lens in the wrong way. So I put it back in again. It was like a child's toy, and I was feeling a little bit, you know, cheated. So anyway, I put it back up, and I managed to get it working. And I thought, oh, I can see the back of the garden. This is amazing. I can see the trees, and I looked through there. And then I took it down, and I looked, and I went, and when you put it up there, and when you took it away, everything was just the same. I might as well paid £6 and just looked through my hand. But you get what you pay for, don't you? You know, and if you want something good, it's going to cost. And it's the same, you know, with our finance and our money as it is with our goods and our talent and our life. If we want something, a life that is good and great, it's going to cost us. It's going to cost us hard work. It's going to cost sacrifice. We've got to make good decisions. And, you know, if we want a life that is blessed of God, there's a cost to that as well. We know that God has already paid the greatest cost in giving his son, Jesus Christ, to die on the cross for us so that we can be forgiven of our past mistakes. And if we put our faith and our trust in him, if we're prepared to obey what he says, we can live a great, blessed, and amazing life. John 10:10, I have come that you might have life and life in all its fullness. So let's get to our text. We're looking at Genesis and the call of Abraham today. You'll find that in Genesis chapter 12, and we're reading from verses 1 to 3. The Lord said to Abraham, go from your country, your people, and your father's house to a land that I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you. Whoever curses you, I will curse, and all people will be blessed on earth through you. So God comes to Abraham. Abraham is 70 years old, and God gives him a call. He gives him an amazing challenge. How many of you know that God still calls people today to do incredible things? And, you know, there are three things that I got out of this promise that I thought were amazing in the promise that God gave to Abraham. Number one, God promised him a great adventure. Like, who's up for a great adventure? You know, God's call is not boring. Thank you for that. Do you like a bit of audience participation? A few more whoops every now and again wouldn't hurt people. Anyway, you know, he offered him a great adventure, and the call of God, thank you, is a great adventure, something to be excited about. Secondly, he promised that there were four things actually. Secondly, he promised him that he would bless him and make his name great. Who wants to be blessed here? I mean, what a great calling. I'm going to send you on an adventure. I'm going to bless you. And the third thing, I'm going to make you a blessing to other people. So not only are we going on an adventure, not only are we blessed, but we're going to have influence and we're going to impact the world around us. And fourthly, all people will be blessed because of you. So we're going on an adventure, we're going to be blessed, our world's going to be impacted, but not only the world of today, but we're going to have the impact on the next generation. I mean, that makes our life worthwhile, doesn't it? That makes our life something of value. And so Abraham has got a choice to make. Because, when we think about this, and we think of where Abraham was, Abraham's 70 years old at this point. And, his life is not too shabby. He's living in Ur, and Ur, was a pretty prosperous place. They had language, they had commerce, they were trading with other nations. They had good arable ground for farming. And the fact that Abraham was 70 years old says something. There are some countries in this world today where the average lifespan, the average life expectancy is just over 50 years old. Think about that. I was having a conversation with a couple of leaders a little while ago, and they were asking me questions about church and gleaning, and they were just starting off. And, it was really good. I'm able to help them and encourage them and speak into where they're at. And at one point, they said to me, is that what it was like back in the day? And I'm like, back in the day? You cheeky pup. I suddenly felt, you look at me and you think I'm ancient. At 50 years old. I turned around and started speaking to somebody else. But Abraham was 70. He'd reached 70. He had lived a good life. His family was with him. He was prospering. And, not only was he 70, but his dad was still around. So his dad, Terah, must have been about 90. And, when things are good and things are great, sometimes we don't want to change, do we? We don't want to move on. And God comes to Abraham and he's got a choice. Things are good here. I've got a good life for myself. And the call of God, God's asking me to leave it all behind. God says, leave your father, leave your forefathers, leave the lands, leave everything that you know and follow me. So the call of God to Abraham, and often the call of God to us, has no guarantees. And sometimes God comes to us and he calls us out of a comfortable place, and then there's a cost, there's a challenge. Jesus, in Matthew 6, says this. It talks about the lilies of the field. It says, they grow up, they flourish, they flower, and then they wither. And the place remembers them no more. And he said, this is what the glory of man is like. And he's quoting David's Psalm 103, where he talks about the glory of man. It's like a flower. And Abraham was probably pleased about what he got, and he's pleased of his accomplishments. And we've got to make a choice. Are we going to sow into our things, the things that we want to do? Are we going to get joy in the things that we've built and the things that are around us that we've created? Are we going to put our value in those things, or are we going to put our value in the things of eternity, the things of God? See, when we do something, Abraham's got to be pretty proud of where he was at. He was in a good place. I don't know what it's like for you, but for me, what does it feel like when you accomplish something good? It feels great, doesn't it? There's glory in doing well. There's glory in working hard and coming back on that day when you get your degree. There's a moment of glory where you got your silly hat on and your coat and everyone's clapping and you got your picture and there it is, your hard work. You're bathing in the glory. But a few weeks later, it's all gone. People have moved on. Oh, what about, don't forget, when I got my degree, they've all moved on. Your moment's gone. It's like when you get a new car. If you love new cars, I've got a 2024 car. You drive it out the showroom, it's bathed in glory. It's a new Skoda. And you're like, whoa, come on, look at the glory. You're driving around, look at me. A year later, it's 2025, all the glory's gone. Then it's 2026, then it's 2027, and it's gone. You know, I remember when we came to Dartford and we were in East Hill and, you know, a couple of hundred people and the building needed work and everything needed work, and we came and we turned it all around and we raised the money, and, you know, we didn't have the money for this. It's cost us millions, and we came here and we moved in the building and we put all the carpet down and we painted it and we put all the lights in and all the people started coming and everything was really good. And then somebody once after a service, and that was an amazing service, Pastor Roy, and he said this to me: you are going to be remembered for the pastor who got us this building. Oh, the glory in that moment. Let me do this by a way of show of hands. How many of you were with us in that East Hill building? Just a few hands. Most of you have never even been to East Hill. You've never even seen that building. You have no idea what we've done. The moment of glory, of all that achievement, is just gone in a moment. See, we can build for our own things. I want to build an empire. I want to build a business. I want to do this. I want to achieve that. And you can do all of that if you work hard, and there's glory in that. But you need to know that glory will just fade away and everybody will forget what you've done. But when we take what we have, our talent, our gifts and our finance, and we sow them into the kingdom of God, and we follow the call of God, and when anything great happens, we say, listen, it was all God. God, it was all you. And we give all of the glory back to God. We are sowing our lives into a glory and a kingdom that will never fail, never perish, never spoil, never be forgotten. Because all the glory is his. And when we finish this life, we'll stand before him and he'll say, well done, good and faithful servants. I want to choose to invest my life into things that will last. My name will perish and fade away. He who loves his life, who loves his life will lose it. If it's all about Roy Morley, you soon forget who Roy Morley is. Actually, this is not Roy Morley. This is Jesus Christ. My life is all about Jesus Christ. It's all about what he has called me to be. I'm his servant. And, you know, this is his church. And Abraham had to make a choice of, look at everything that I've done. Look at everything that I've achieved. He walked around and said, this field, this is mine. This house, this is mine. This lovely woman, she's mine. His wife, of course. These kids, he didn't have yet. But he chose. God said, I want you to make a decision to leave all of this behind. Where's Josh? Come on, come up here. You've been digging me all service. It's my turn. Now, Josh, you're a smart cookie, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanna just, you know, you just finished your degree. What was that moment like? Come on, it was great, wasn't it?
It was great. It feels like relief, like, you know.
Come on, you worked hard, but give glory to God.
Thank God, thank God.
It's got a purpose and a plan for your life, and it's far greater than anything that you can ever do, accomplish, or achieve. God will do amazing things through you. But let me ask you a few questions. I'm going to give you 3 names of people, and I'm going to ask you, just when I give you the name, just tell me who they are, yeah?
All right, cool.
Okay, so here's the first one. You ready? Emily Pankhurst. Who is she?
I have no idea.
All right, pipe down over there. This is not your moment.
Actor.
Okay. William Booth.
Oh! Yeah, I have no idea. I'm joking.
Okay, let's try one more. Let's, let me think of somebody. Alexander Bell.
The guy that created the bell, isn't it? Earphones.
He created
The
telephone.
ball. Telephone. Oh my gosh.
People, it was not Steve Jobs who invented the telephone. It was Alexander. Now, here's the thing. You're an intelligent guy. The only reason you didn't know that stuff, because you've never been taught it. Now, Emily Pankhurst, well done, led the suffragettes. And the reason that women have the vote today is because of her and her movement. I think William Booth led the Salvation Army, massive reform, changed poverty. The reason our bins are taken away was because of him. But here's the thing. I know who he is, Josh didn't. Because my generation was taught about that. But, there's so much happening. The world's moving on. And when it comes to Josh's generation, that thing is not taught. So Emily's name, she did great things, but it's in a book somewhere. And in the next generation, her name will be forgotten. Thanks, Josh. You can take your seat. However much we achieve or what we do, it will soon be forgotten. And Abraham had to make a choice. Am I going to leave everything that I'm resting on, that I take my pride on? Am I going to leave it all and just trust God that he has something greater for me? And here's the thing, church. God has always got something greater. I'm going to take you on an adventure. I'm going to bless you. I'm going to cause your life to be a blessing to others. And I'm going to cause that blessing not to be even just to this generation, but to the generation after that. And so, we've got to make a choice. Are we going to follow the call of God? Jesus said, no one can, be worthy to plow if they plow a field and look backwards. If we want to plow a field, often, God says, I want you to go. I want you to leave everything. I want you to trust me. I want you to step out into something new. And if we're like, oh, I want to do it, but what about that? Oh, I want to do that. Oh, but what about when I did that? We're never going to go anywhere. I was away with Rowan the other day. We were in the Peak District and we parked up to go hiking up this hill. And we parked to this yellow line, right? And the yellow line, you know how they do yellow lines? They've got this yellow paint and they put it in a pot with a stick. And they walk along the road like that. And that's how you get yellow lines. And if you want to get white lines, you empty the yellow paint out, clean it out, you put white in it, and then you go along and you get white lines. Well, we pulled up to this yellow line, and seriously, it went like that. The yellow line, it literally went like that. And the guy must be going, that's a nice mountain. Look at that. Oh, that's amazing. Is that a buzzard up there? And literally, you pull up, and your front wheels would be on the yellow line, and your back wheels wouldn't be anywhere near it. So I don't know what they'd do, give you half a ticket or something if they came along. But if we want to step out into what God's got, we've got to make a decision. Is this about what I'm going to build? Is this about what I'm going to do? Or am I prepared to lay everything down and step into somewhere or I don't even know I'm going? God never said to Abraham, I want you to go to Lewisham. I want you to go to Bristol. I want you to go somewhere else. God didn't give him a destination. He just said, listen, pack your bags and go. And when you get there, I'll tell you where you need to be. I mean, that's, and that's what the call of God is often like. Now, there are different people in this room. There are people in this room who have heard the call but have not yet made the decision. You're deliberating. You know what God's calling you to do. You know what God's leading you to do in your school, in your family, in your workplace, in your community, in your church. You know what the Spirit of God is saying to you, but you haven't made the decision yet. Then there are those that have made the decision and they're on the journey, but they haven't arrived yet. You stepped out in faith and you're on the journey, but you're not quite sure where you're going. And then we have those people who have made decision, who've stepped out, who've gone through the journey, who've arrived, and God said, this is the place. And you've worked and you've, preached and shared your faith, and everything has begun to prosper around you. And you're impacting your world and, you're impacting the next generation. So those of you here, right here, and you haven't made a decision, and that's fine, that's fine, but, get on with it, please. Get on with it. Make that decision. Say, okay, God, I'm going to do it. If you don't say it, you don't speak it out, then you haven't got the faith to believe it. Stop deliberating. Make a decision. Is it God or is it you? You know, you can keep faffing about between, I should go, I shouldn't go, I should go, I shouldn't go. Let me tell you, time passes pretty quickly. I mean, I've got young people telling me back in the day, or I don't feel like I was back in the day, but time passes. Opportunities pass. Make the decision to just step out and trust God if God's calling you. If you're on the journey, that's great. Just keep doing what you're doing. Keep loving God. Keep serving church. And when you arrive in the place, you know, and sometimes you bounce off of other places and you're in one thing and that doesn't work and you're over somewhere else. Don't worry. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. You know, if God opened the door, he's going to take you to the right place. And then those of you that are here, you're flourishing. Just keep doing your ministry. But let me tell you this, that, you know, when we see it in the journey of Abraham, it was a linear journey. He's called, he stepped out, he journeyed, he reached the place, and God fulfilled. But for us, it's a little bit different. It's not a linear journey, it's a circular journey. So God will call you out, he'll call you to do something, you'll step out, you'll journey, you'll travel, you'll reach somewhere, you'll start to flourish and prosper and everything will be going great. And then in that place of health and wealth and great things in your ministry, God will come back and say, okay, that's great. Now I want you to leave all of that behind. And I want you to now start going to somewhere else that I'll show you. So, you know, that kind of Abraham spirit of just faith and believe and trust in God, we've got to have it. We got to just keep, you know, letting go and making sure that none of the glory is going to us, that all of it's God. You know, we might be the best at what we're doing, but if God calls us out into something else, we just got to let go, not look back, look forward and step in to what God has given us. Think about the Great Commission. I love this. If you're on the journey, the Great Commission, Jesus said, go into all the world and preach the good news and make disciples of all nations. Matthew 28, Mark 16. And, you know, it was the Great Commission before, but in Mark's version, in Mark 16, he says, and these things will accomplish, will accompany those who go in my name. They'll speak in new tongues. They'll lay hands on the sick. And the sick will get well. You know, there are miracles on the journey. If you're not sure where you're going, if you step out and you just do what Jesus said and you tell people about your faith and you know, you're thriving in the church and you're reaching people and supporting everything that we're doing and praying and seeking God and reading the word, incredible things are going to happen on that journey. And, you know, you're going to be part of that amazing thing of the promise of Abraham that, you know, is fulfilled through Christ and through the church. The promise is still the same. God's sending us on a great adventure. God is going to bless you. God is going to use your life to bless others. And not only are you going to impact others, but your impact is going to go beyond the generation that you are in today. I heard a great speaker just a few weeks ago, Dan Owolabi. He's from Nigeria and he wrote an amazing book called Authentic Leadership. And he tells a story about a woman in Nigeria and she was profoundly deaf. And she was about 18 years old and the Nigerian government started a scheme where they would pay for a certain number of people who were into dance and the arts to go on a scholarship to America. And they would pay for them to go. They would pay for the whole scholarship. And if the people found work on the other side, they would fund them through all their citizenship in America. And so this young woman, her name was Ruth, she went to the Nigerian embassy and she sat in, she walked in and there was a big open room, open hall like this, maybe just a little bit lighter with windows and everything. And she sat down with a couple of hundred other young people. And she waited her turn. And eventually, around lunchtime, she had like a preliminary interview with the director of this whole operation and the whole procedure. And he interviews her and she struggles and she said she's deaf. And at the end of it, he says, okay, it's great. Can you just wait outside? Like not in the hall, but outside. And then, a lot of the other students, they went through to their second interview. And at the end of the day, 5:00, he came out into the lobby area and there was Ruth sitting. And he was like, haven't you gone home? And she said, no. And he said, come back tomorrow. So she came back tomorrow and she waited in the lobby, and everybody else went in. They went through, and she waited all day. And at the end of the day, the director came out again. He went, "Oh, are you still here?" And she said, "Yes." He said, "Come back tomorrow." And she came back the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day. And the same thing happened. She was told to wait in the lobby. And at 5 o'clock, the director came out. He said, "Are you still here? Come back tomorrow." And she went back day after day, month after month, year after year. For 8 years, she went to get that scholarship. She sat in the lobby every day to be told, "I'll go home and come back tomorrow." Anyway, after 8 years, a woman came down and she said, "Are you Ruth?" And she's like, "Yes, I'm Ruth." She said, "Well, I'm the new director. The old director has retired, and I've heard that you've been here for 8 years." And she said, "Yes." And she said, "Today, you're going to get your scholarship." And so she went to the United States, and, she went through the whole training, and she got a job, and she flourished, and she got her citizenship, and she had her family, and her life began to flourish. And Dad talked about how this woman's story impacted him so much. He heads up a charity called Bridge Builders, and they work with charities right across the world, empowering, training leaders, giving free information, helping leaders train through. They're a massive, massive organisation. And he talks about in his book about a time that, he's got his own kids. He's got 3 kids. He's got his wife, and his life's busy, and the charity's busy. And he just felt like, he's not qualified enough. He's going to these places, and the leaders of all these organisations, they've got doctoral degrees, and he decides he's going to do his doctoral degree, and he starts it, and it should have been 5 years, and, with the charity and the family and the kids, 5 years goes into 8 years, and then 8 years goes into 10 years, and after 10 years, he decides it's too much. I can't do it, I've tried, but I just can't do it. And he phones up his mum, and he says, "Mum, I just want to come, just chatting." And he was talking it through, and he said, "Listen, I'm going to give up on my doctorate. It's too difficult. It's too hard." And his mum said, "Don't do anything." He says, "But come round and see me tomorrow." So he went to see his mum. He sat down, and his mum just began to reshare her story with him again, and to encourage him, and to challenge him not to give up. And after an hour with his mum, he decided, that's it. I'm going to see it through to the end. His mum, Dan Oluwabi, was Ruth Oluwabi, the same woman that sat there for 8 years. And she never gave up. She never gave up because she had a promise of something greater. And because she never gave up, in a moment of desperation, she was able to turn to her son and give her son hope. And so her son never gave up. And he talks about several years later when his daughter phones him from university and says, "Dad, it's too hard. I want to give up." He says, "Don't give up. Pop round and see me tomorrow." You see, when you step out and you trust God, He's going to bless you. He's going to open doors for you. And you might have to wait, but the day is coming. And when God gives you success, when God answers your prayers, it's so that you can grab somebody else who's struggling and say, "Let me tell you about my story." And then your blessing becomes their blessing and is passed on to the next generation. Sometimes the hardest thing is taking the first step. Think about Peter in the boat in John chapter 12. He's in the boat with the disciples, and they're in a storm, and the boat is being smashed about by the waves. And it's a pretty frightening place to be. And Jesus comes in the water and he says to Peter, "Get out of the boat." Now, when you're in a boat and you're in a storm, you want to be in the middle. Because, the boat, you don't want to be near the edge. Because if you're near the edge, the boat's already got, you can go over the side. So they're all sat there, and Jesus says, "Come on, Peter, Peter says, Jesus, I want to step out to where you are. And Jesus says, well, come and then step out onto the water. Now, to step out on the water, that means Peter's got to walk to the side and he's got to put his foot up and he's got to stand on the edge of the boat. Well, what do you think's going to happen when he stands on the boat? The whole boat's going to begin to rock. So all the disciples, they were like, go, Peter, do it. And then Peter goes to step up on the boat. They're like, no, Peter, don't do it. Stop. Sometimes, if you want to get out the boat, you've got to rock the boat. And everybody will say, don't do it. You can't do it. It's too difficult. You're going to leave all this behind. Look what you've accomplished. Stay back. Don't do it. But God's looking for men and women in the workplace, in the community, in church, who are not afraid to rock the boat, who are not afraid to upset a few people because they haven't got the faith that they have. And we can't let negative thoughts hold us back. We can't let the past hold us back. But when God says, come on, I've got a great adventure for you, we've got to just step out and trust God with the journey. I love, the whole example of Abraham, and kind of Romans 4 picks it all up and it goes through to Romans 8. And I love, where it says Abraham did not waver. Because, 70 years on the journey, he gets to 90 and God's promised that he's going to make him the father of many nations. Well, it was pretty difficult at 70, but at 90, it's impossible. It's impossible now because his own wife is way past childbearing. But how many of you know if God said it, God's going to do it? God told you he's going to open that door, he's going to open that door. He told you you're going to find that partner, you'll find that partner. He told you he's going to give you the grace to be single, he'll give you the grace. And it says this, that Abraham did not waver through unbelief concerning the promises of God, but was fully persuaded that God was able to do what he said. I want to tell you today, church, listen, Abraham might not have felt worthy. He might not have felt able. In his little world, he was king and he was confident. But often when we step into the things of God, we step into a bigger world and suddenly we're not in control anymore. And suddenly think we're not worthy, we're not good enough, we're not able. But let me tell you this, Abraham didn't achieve great things because he was able. He didn't achieve great things because he was confident. He didn't achieve great things because he's gifted. He achieved great things because he just believed. He just believed. He said, God, if you said it, then I'm going to believe that you're going to do it. And I love the fact that God has called us, the church, to reach the whole world and to make disciples. He's told us that if we believe that nothing is impossible for us, nothing is impossible, just believe. And you might feel today, now you're not good enough for the call of God. That you're not good enough for what God's called you to do. Listen, God is not looking for people who are good enough. He's just looking for people who will go. He'll say, God, I'll do it. Forget you're not qualified. Forget you don't feel good enough. God wants people who say, I'll go. Rather than people who are qualified. People who have got the gifting, but they choose not to go. I'd rather be ill-equipped, unqualified, but go anyway and trust God than have all the knowledge and skill sets, stay behind and miss out on what God's called us to be. Listen, God has not called us to stay in the comforts of everything nice and lovely and where we are. He's called us on a mission and a venture to reach the world for Jesus. That means every time we get comfortable, that means every time we start to flourish, God begins to say, that's amazing, you've done a great job, but it's time to head into a new season and to leave all of that behind. If you want to take a hold of something, you've got to let go of that which is in your hand. You can't hold two things with one hand. And as Christians, if we want to take hold of the promises of God, we've got to learn to let go of our doubt. Let go of our fear. Let go of the security that comes from all of our past glories. We've got to let go and free fall into the promises of God. And he'll always catch you. He'll always be for you. He'll always meet your need.